Hi, this is Xanthe here. My second most viewed video is about stimming, tics, etc. I want to just make another video about the topic. Sorry, I'm just having trouble. So what happens is I tend to grab something so that it helps me speak. I want to talk more not about all the different things because there's hundreds of things, but why I do things mainly. So stimming, self-stimulatory behaviours, also called stereotypies, tend to be repetitive behaviours that people often associate with autism, but it's not necessarily the case because everyone does it to some degree. It's just that some people do it an awful lot, and some people it becomes to levels where it's considered to be impairing. Just like everything, like some things in moderation is fine. If it becomes excessive, it can be problematic. So the stimming is like the repetitive. It can be movement, it can be sound, it can be, it tends to be rhythmical, repeated, whereas the tics are more involuntary, usually more sudden movements or sounds, more jerky tends to be, and it's kind of like a sneeze where you can't really control it very easily, it just comes out. And there's also something called psychomotor agitation, which is a symptom of bipolar disorder, but it can also go with anxiety, etc. So that tends to be pacing and needing to move when you feeling that you have to move, and talking faster, which they call pressure of speech, which I am trying not to do right now, but I probably am. Tends to go with the more elevated mood, in mixed moods, different flavours of mood, and then if you watch several of my videos, I stim in lots of different ways, and that is pretty much subconscious what I do. I usually have a couple of objects near me in case I need to fidget with them. It is to stop me freezing, because movement is the opposite of freezing. So I have the shutdown presentation of PTSD, so I can shut down my emotion, shut down my cognition, shut down my movement, or the whole lot, depending on degrees, and dissociate as well. So when I fidget, how I fidget is subconscious, but it helps to ground me, to keep me present enough to keep speaking. I'll show some of the objects with examples, watching back my videos. Well, okay, so let's start with no objects at all. What I quite often end up doing is running my hands through my hair. It tends to be self-soothing because my hair is very smooth. It's kind of like stroking a cat. Some other self-soothing I do when I'm processing something quite distressing, I might tend to rock. It can be quite subtle. What else? With my fingers, I might be doing that, which is something quite subtle when I'm in public as well. I'm sitting on my foot right now, which is pressure. I might knead out knots. Sorry about the tools in the background. So there's massage, pressure, squeezing, that kind of thing. The objects I choose seem to be related to something I'm processing, plus help me to focus on whatever I'm talking about. Lately I've had the nail polishes out, different colours for different moods. I remember that I made a quick video when I was high with bipolar PTSD. I went high in a song, pulled over in my car, and I did hand dance. I had bright red on, and I was dancing, completely mesmerised by my fingers and the movement. I haven't got bright colour on today, but movement of my fingers. My psychologist says, I can see why people keep saying, oh, you must be autistic. Apparently I'm not, it's just some traits and overlap. Sometimes when I'm talking I line up bottles, so it's my nail polish, or I've got over there my inks, my acrylic inks, so rearranging them. It's just some sort of movements helping keep me here present and grounded is the main reason, plus processing, because the colours all have different symbolism, my old name, my new name. Quite often I'll be squeezing the paint. The buttons change out on this necklace here, so that it comes apart. I play with the chain in all sorts of different ways. So usually doing this or something. All the subconscious. Another time I had the feather. There, for me, there is a different symbolism to every single object, but I don't explain it because it's too long. But while I was speaking, it's sort of like flow of consciousness speaking. The feather was keeping me present. Sometimes it's a soft voice. They're all symbolic. This is the vulnerable one, hypomania one. Stroke it, squeeze it, cuddle it. Psychologist said 3 times the way that I have held the toy has been indicative of the age of trauma as well. So it's my PTSD. It's very hard for the clinicians to tell apart whether I was autistic or whether I had PTSD, or both. They decided that it was PTSD and social anxiety disorder and bipolar disorder, bipolar 1. 10s of bullet pens, all different colours. Sometimes I've done that. Sometimes I fidgeted with this, doing that, which might be a bit annoying when you can hear clicking, but it has helped keep me here, as well as processing something linked to the objects. Paintbrush. This is all continuation of the movement, because movement is the opposite to being frozen. I have the freeze shutdown version of PTSD, which is most commonly associated with childhood trauma. So listening to the music on repeat, that's what I do quite often, a particular song, and then I process. So I do a painting. Can't do it every day, I need a break because it's like doing a marathon of the intensity involved. But I direct the energy into some project, and so it might be a song on repeat, fiddle with the thing. What else? Might be symbolic toy. Masturbation. This is oh, it still kind of goes. It's an almost dead massage wand, which you can use for muscles as well. Masturbation is not necessarily about sex, and orgasms aren't necessarily to do with sex. It's just for me a whole bunch of energy. The reason I fidget a lot at times is because I have shitloads of energy. They call it hyperarousal energy. It is basically incredible internal amounts of energy with mood, the high mood, and that can happen with PTSD as well. So depends on the flavour of whether it's fluid, talking with my hands for example, or whether it's, you know, doing something like this. I tend to leg jiggle a lot as well, and it's not conscious, it's not deciding I'm going to leg jiggle right now, it just happens, and then after a while it's like, oh, I'm jiggling my leg, I might notice it, get to rub my feet together. That's more sensual and relaxing when I can wake up in the morning doing that. What else? When I was a child, I liked to spin around until I fell over it and then watch the sky, and it was going around in circles. Friend liked to do that as well. When I was a child, I used to also wind my swing up, jump on and let it go and not spin. So I like the spinning sensation, which now would make me feel probably ill, but at the time I liked that. Sometimes I would spin around in a chair, spin around in circles. It's something that kids like to do in general, I think. But people like to try and make it their identity now as though it's these special traits. When my mood is elevated, with the bipolar, I tend to get very stimmy, some people would call it. Like, look at the colours of the egg. And it would be like, oh wow, oh real, oh pretty egg, you know. Or go and pluck all the bits of glass out of the lake I did one time that was sparkling. And so I've been painting it with nail polish at the moment. Symbolism, processing with the colour. I process with the colour, whether it's nail polish, whether it's paints. I don't wear nail polish. I don't wear perfume usually because I find it too pongy. But I bought this when I was manic, partly because I liked the hand grenade shaped bottle with a flower. It's evaporated. I haven't worn this. I've probably worn it less than half a dozen times. So I will be more inclined to sniff things like perfumes or shower gels. My nose is itching right now. With the tics, I sometimes had blink, so I can't help it. I've been aware of this since I was a child because I got teeth for it. So I just kind of like blink my eyes really hard and sometimes screw up my face. Can't help it. Suddenly there will be like a quick motion. Often that is associated when I'm trying not to express intense emotion. I've noticed when I watch pet videos, there will be something that happens in my face. I can't control it because I shut down emotion severely. Intense emotion triggers me, so it comes out in a movement. Sometimes it'll be like a flick in my hand. I can't help it. It just happens. When it's very strong emotion like disgust, it sometimes comes out and I go like that. I can't help it. It's just sort of like shaking it out. It's like I suppose it's like a dog when they shake off the wetness. It kind of reminds me of that. So what's the reason I do it? To discharge energy, whether it's an anxious flavour, which tends to be more the different kind of fidgeting, so it's often the leg jiggling. I have picked up my skin when I'm very, very anxious, and not usually a nail biter, but sometimes I've kind of done that. Sometimes I've just done this, kind of bit my lips. When I'm anxious too, I might fiddle with something under the table, and I had a job interview, fiddling with something. And doodling actually helps me listen better. I find it hard to make eye contact, including looking at the camera. This is an age-old one that lots of people do, like pens, which can drive other people nuts. At school I used a calculator and annoyed every student in the class because I tapped too loud, so I had to learn to tap quieter. Some things I can't help, like saying Sometimes I say phrases over and over, often as processing or to keep me present. Like if I'm driving or something and I cannot pull over and I'm finding it hard to focus, I might just say something out loud over and over and over to keep me, or start singing loudly to try and keep me here, and then I can pull over and have a rest. So I'm just squeezing the paint tube. Might be twisting a lid. I don't use, you know, various fidget toys, etc. My son was diagnosed Asperger's, ADHD, tic disorder when he was 6 years old, and some of the things he used to do, he had it severe enough tics too, but my tics are very mild, so I don't have a tic disorder, but he would lick raw around his mouth. He couldn't help it, it's involuntary, or he'd blurt out something all of a sudden, you know, like swear or something, and could suppress it with strong oppositional muscles, but only temporarily. It's involuntary. It was more often with anxiety, I noticed. He also had a little hand stim with, he would do this, but down here, he would do this when he was anxious. Self-soothing, I think where it comes from is from when he had blankie and thumb sucking. Thumb sucked till he was about 5 years old. And he would do this with the blankie, and then before that, when he was breastfeeding, it was my hair. He would hold on to my hair. And then he had a blankie, which I chose for the softness of it, very soft blanket, and then it ended up being cut into squares so he could carry a piece with him, which was his self-soothing. And then it ended up, when he gave up blankie, still having the hand motion exactly the same as the blankie, which was more when he was anxious. There was also a time when, because all animals, I think, stim, including birds, kind of like grooming, but then it could be like feather plucking, you know, when there's distress. There was a time when I bought this new rug based on how soft it was, and all of my cat, my dog, and my son, who was age 10 at about the time, just rug up and down the rug. It was totally for the sensation of it against their bodies, I think, plus the new smell of a rug. And then once it was worn in, we weren't interested in it anymore. But it was just probably a little bit unusual. With the sort of the stereotypes that you get when people associate with autism, they associate the hand flapping. I did have a friend and that hand flapped. I doubtful she was on the spectrum, but she's probably borderline, and I would think she also has social anxiety disorder, probably, but she did it purely because she was excited, but she would also feel the emotion of the excitement. So what would happen is it would look like this, and she would also jump up and down, and she would shriek and get all excited, basically. And that was just how she expressed herself. So it's not necessarily an autism thing. She also, when she was anxious, tended to pick at her skin and pluck her hair, and she'd end up with a bald patch. So if it's not, causing distress and impairment, I mean, there's no need for a diagnosis, is there? So that's where the problem is with the broadening of some of these diagnoses, and people have some personality traits and identifying into things. What else? Just doing that now. I'm self-aware now, so I'm aware and I'm doing it, but I don't see most of what I do until I watch the video back. So it takes on different flavours. A psychologist, when she was watching back my videos with me, when I do on the odd occasion express intense emotion like anger, which is rare, she said I tend to get quite jerky with my movements, more flowing and rhythmical in between, and very still when I'm shut down. So Most of the time my emotions are shut down. Like currently now, I'm not feeling intense emotion right now. And yes, I can be shut down on different levels. When I am painting, I often dance as well. So I've demonstrated some of my paintings. It might look a bit odd when you can't hear the music, but I'll paint for a bit and then I might just do this. What it does is it's taking me back into the music, so I'm in that trance again, which then helps me go by my intuition rather than thinking, because when I'm getting stuck in my thinking, I'm avoiding emotion. So painting or doing any form of creative expression allows me to process emotion without necessarily feeling it as emotion. Anyway, that's another topic. Hope this helps. When my PTSD gets very activated, plus my mood is